Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth and final episode in our Hero's Journey series. Well, guys, we have finally made it to the end of this very convoluted semester. I am very happy that we are here basically at the finish line, and I am also very proud of everything you guys have accomplished. I feel that this semester has been a time of growth and learning, not only about the language that we're studying, but about ourselves and about our classmates, and that makes me very, very happy. So, before we move into the video itself, I would like to start by saying that I am very happy to have worked with you through this, not only this semester, but also last year as well, and I am very proud of you. It has been a privilege to learn about your stories and read about everything you have to talk about. I am just loving it. So, thank you guys for joining me on this journey. So, into the video. Today we will cover the third act of the hero's journey, which includes Act 10, the road back, 11, resurrection, and 12, return with the elixir. Now, a quick note before we continue, these names may be a bit misleading, especially because on stage 9 we had the ordeal, which kind of feels like the big challenge of the story. After a stage like that, seeing the road back or resurrection can make you believe that we are just returning home peacefully. And that is because the names in this narrative structure come from epics or classical mythology. So things worked a little bit differently in those genres. So about the road back. Alright, the story is not over just yet, as this phase marks the beginning of Act 3. Now that the hero has seized the reward, the hero tries to return to the ordinary world, but more dangers inconveniently arise on the road back from the inmost cave. So the hero hasn't defeated the big villain yet. He is on his way to either face him or he thinks that he has defeated him. And we see this often in movies where we feel that, oh, the evil guy is dead, but he now transforms into something different, a bigger monster, and that is what is kind of happening here. So as you can see, once the hero has acquired this sword or a magical item, they must now march to face their final enemy. This may or may not include some extra obstacles for fun, they discuss with a friend, or they are being taunted by an enemy, or they are attacked by TIE fighters on their way to the Death Star. But as a general rule, it is the last stretch before the final showdown. And I will exemplify this by using my own story. So after I decided to quit my job following the days when I lost my grandfather, I went to my mentor's office, who remember she was my boss, and I went to inform her of my decision to quit my job. And I was nervous because she had hired me just a few months before, and I felt like I was letting her down. After all, she would have to find a replacement, hire them, train them, and I explained the situation and how things were not working out for me, and that I wanted to focus on other projects. So I was very surprised when she said, yeah, you can do much better than this place. That was the last bit of resolve I needed to go and confront my boss. So in this moment, I had to yet take another test, right? It was another challenge. I was not only going to go quit my job. It's not as easy as that. I had to go first through the person who had hired me and tell them, you know what, you're going to have to find a replacement. I'm letting you know because it's the right thing to do. So we move on to the resurrection, right? It is a true climax of the story. Once the reward has been seized and the road back has been traveled, the hero must face the enemy. And here is a true climax of the story. Everything that happened prior to this stage culminates in a crowning test for the hero, as the dark side gets one last chance to triumph over the hero. So Vogler refers to this as a final exam for the hero. They must be tested once more to see if they really have learned the lessons of the ordeal. It is in this final battle that the protagonist goes through one more resurrection. And like I mentioned, this idea of resurrection may seem a bit odd after the ordeal, and when adapting it to your own story, it could be a little confusing if we consider that ideally one doesn't die and then resurrect into the real world. This is usually a metaphorical resurrection, so it's sort of like the last hurrah after being knocked down. In Rocky, this is when he is literally knocked down by Apollo, or when Luke Skywalker uses the Force to fire the torpedo down the Death Star's vent. The resurrection is in getting up and then delivering that last punch And of course, yes, Rocky loses the fight against Apollo, but he remains a winner in our hearts. That's what makes it such a good movie, I guess. So in this stage, it is of paramount importance for our narrative that every element that we have created or brought into the story plays a part. Allies, mentors, teachings, the tests, everything should be connected in this moment. Otherwise, they were not important and they were just filler in our story. So this is known as Chekhov's gun. So if you haven't heard of this principle and you like writing or you like storytelling, super important principle. So Chekhov's gun is a dramatic principle that states that every element in a story must be necessary and irrelevant elements should be removed. Elements should not appear to make false promises by never coming into play. So if you say in the first chapter that there is a rifle hanging on the wall, in the second or third chapter, it absolutely must go off. If it's not going to be fired, then it shouldn't be hanging there. There are a lot of elements in our world, in our story, that were there. We just didn't bring attention to them because they were not that important, or they're not important at this moment, especially when we're not going to make 3 books out of what you're telling me. So I try to find a good example for someone not following this principle properly, and though there are many online, most of them are from movies that you may not have seen because they are kind of old. And I think that I would put the Joker in Suicide Squad in this category, as he is always built up to be a big deal, but he's never actually important in the film. And I suppose that I could make a video on the topic with examples in the future, but the most important thing to remember is that this is the climactic moment, and the hero should not just walk in and blast their enemies with powers that they have never used before. And so is this a criticism at Star Wars? Maybe it is, but it should be a challenge and it should feel difficult. One of the main problems with storytelling is that we know the hero is going to win. We know the hero is going to prevail. So you have to be very careful about how they do it so that it remains exciting. So if we go back to Atlantis, we see that Milo and his friends have to resolve or come up with some solutions for problems they have not fixed before, as to how to use the weapons in the vehicles that they're riding, or to simply decide that they are actually not a wimp that has no place in a fight, and actually go in and fight against this huge villain who is Rourke. So it's not necessarily thinking, oh yeah, they're gonna fight, they're gonna be a few punches and that's gonna be it. There should be a challenge. The challenge should be rewarding for us as listeners or as viewers or as readers to go through. So in my case, I had told my boss / coordinator supervisor that I will be quitting, but I still had to inform the owner of the school. And that guy paid my salary. So let me tell you, he was having none of it. This final showdown actually went on for a couple of days. First, he acted offended and surprised, telling me how could I walk away from a commitment like that, and was I that unprofessional? So yeah, sure, he had a point. I had made a commitment not only to him, most importantly, I had made a commitment to my students, who, not to brag, but they absolutely loved me. So I worked with these 4th graders, and just after a couple of months of working with them, they adored the lessons and activities. And to be honest, I was more concerned about them than I was about this guy. But anyway, he told me that he was disappointed. And what was the issue? I mean, was he not paying me enough? And that was not the issue. I mean, he was not paying me enough, but that was not the issue. He also asked me if the hours may be too long, and yes, they were, and that was kind of the issue, but it was not the main problem. So I explained to him that I was going to be working on a project that would need a lot of my time, that it was good for a good cause, and the author really needed my help. And he responded by offering me more money, and I actually was taken aback for a second, because I had initially asked for similar amount of money when I first started working there. So saying that he was going to pay me what I had asked originally made me double think. But in that moment, I remembered that it was not about the money, that it was for a cause, and that I was actually going to be making so much less money after I quit. So no, it was not because I was getting a better pay elsewhere. I was simply not going to be paid anymore, but it was for the cause. So he was surprised, and I'm sure that he did not believe me. I mean, he didn't offer me to cut me some slack with the ridiculous hours that we had to work, and even offer me other benefits, but these benefits were not offered to other coworkers, so I honestly felt a little offended, and I said that I would not budge, and he advised me to think about it. And I did think about it. I mean, I was offered better money, better hours, special treatment. Come on, I mean, how could I not accept, right? And this is when all the lessons and experience from the previous months kicked in. I mean, I was not going to be able to work on this project, and this was not what I wanted. But change can be scary, and uncertainty can be even scary. So I had talks with my allies, I talked to my roommate, I thought about it, I spoke with my friends, even with some coworkers that I really trusted, and I did some contemplating. And I thought about not what my grandfather would do, because he was his own person, but I thought about what the person he saw in me would do. It was his passing, after all, that got me thinking. And it was not about fulfilling a dead man's expectations. It's just that sometimes we fail to see in ourselves what others can see plain as day, especially when it comes to positive traits and strengths. And in the end, it came to this quote that I love, which interestingly enough, I saw first in a video game, but whatever. We improve ourselves by victories over ourselves. There must be contest and we must win. I realized then that this was not against my boss or against the paycheck, it was within myself. I stepped into the office the next day and said that I would quit and that I had made up my mind. Surprisingly, my boss was understanding. It wasn't like I had left him much of an option, I guess, but still we left on relatively good terms, and I told him that I would give him 4 weeks to find a replacement, given how it was very difficult to find teachers in the middle of the school year. And I had passed the final test. So we move on to the final stage, Return with the Elixir, in which our hero has a triumphant homecoming. So finally, the hero gets to return home. However, they go back a different person than they were when they started out. They have grown and matured as a result of the journey they've taken. In this final stage, the hero goes home, puts the uniform away, becomes a farmer, and lives happily ever after until they are asked to come back as the President of the United States. I mean, who can refuse that? In all seriousness, this is the end of the road. As the quote said, there should be growth and there should be change in our characters. They're wiser, stronger, nobler, humbler, classier. Depending on the kind of story you're telling, the elixir can be a physical item like Bilbo's treasure chest, or metaphorical like Bilbo's character growth. Many things have changed during the journey, and our hero, your hero, should not be the farm boy or the hunter or the student or the child that they once were. In my case, I guess that the elixir came around a few months after, when the book was published with my name on it. As an editor, not an author, but hey, still, I mean, it counts. The farewell with my students was also a sort of a triumphant event, because I realized how much of an impact I've had on them and all the things that I could share and teach as a result of my adventure. This was not the end of a journey, to be sure. I mean, in the following months, I struggled with the lack of money that comes from going from working 52 hours a week to 12 hours a week. And this decision cost me a relationship, and I had to skip many outings, dining out, going to the movies, and so forth. But in the end, it was all worth it. I got a better job. I am studying to get my master's degree. I am about to get my master's degree, actually. This is an update for those that saw the old video and are now watching this one. I have about 3 weeks left in my master's program. I met a girlfriend who I love and who I'm getting married to next year, and I got to spend time with my family. So I would not change a single thing, because those choices are what led me to being where I am today. And that about wraps up this series. I am so thankful for watching. I hope that this material was helpful and that you enjoyed telling your story as much as I enjoyed telling mine. Remember that, as always, the resources are in the description and that you can leave any comments and questions in the section below. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your summer break, which is just a couple weeks away, and stay safe. I will see you in our next class and hopefully in our next semester. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Goodbye.